high school, each Sunday night, I'd watch the practice with none of my friends. I'd turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice.
Oh, with your host, Keith Varney.
Out of practice.
And Mike Indeglio.
Way back in high school, most every night, my mom watched QVC, so I missed the practice. There was no TiVo, what could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then stream it on Hulu. Out of practice.
Guys, we hit reset on the democracy explosion. That didn't make any sense.
I think what Keith was trying to say is Mike got the best 40th birthday present ever. Democracy explosion sounds just about as nasty as our podcast would allow.
And welcome to the Out of Practice podcast. We are a weekly podcast that talks about the TV show from the 90s we all remember, David E. Kelley's The Practice. This week we are up to season 5, episode 8, Mr. Hinks Goes to Town. It is episode number 92, and what I was trying to say is we hit snooze on the democracy alarm. We actually, looks like we might be able to hold on to our democracy for a few more years. If you're listening to this, we are recording on November 9th. They have called the election. Our good friend Joe has won the election. Oh, what a relief. What a relief.
Yeah, if you, well, Keith usually does most of the prep work anyway, but life has ground to a halt for the majority of us. What's interesting to me is, well, so many things I'm sure we'll tackle. You might want to, if you're not really into listen to us talk politics, maybe fast forward a minute or two to 10. Because I feel like we're gonna unload a little bit here, as Keith alluded to in his porno opening. I had joked that moving back to Pennsylvania.
I like a democracy explosion.
What is explosion?
I mean, it depends on your definition of explosion and democracy.
We moved to Pennsylvania, and darned if it didn't come down to Pennsylvania.
It
and
sure did.
The 3 suburbs that my family lives in, the Philadelphia County, Montgomery County, and where we live now, Chester County. So we had a hand in, and the other thing I want to say, and look, there's a lot of post-mortem to be done, obviously, and a lot of legal challenges that are going to be ongoing. But there was a man at the polls. It was a very orderly line we were in, very long. Thanks, a shout out to hashtag Pizza at the Polls, who brought us pizza because the line was so long.
Nice.
There was a man and his family. I don't know that they were related. I shouldn't assume. And they were at our poll site, and they were asked a few times to move their actual location because they were, there's that law that says you can't be within so many feet of a polling place depending on where you are. And they were pushing that boundary. They were in no way intimidating. I don't want to give that impression. They were normal, but they were trying. Their whole message they were hammering was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to be socialism. We're from socialist China. It will lead to a lot of people dying. That was their
interesting.
And me and Jen sort of were silently laughing, not at them, but at that messaging while we were in line. And darned if a lot of the exit polls aren't showing that had a huge effect in Florida and some other communities, that socialism, that hammering that socialism message. It did get a little comical when they started trying to compare Kamala Harris to Hitler, which felt like a stretch even.
It's a bold choice.
But nonetheless,
Yeah.
a few days of indecision kind of lingered. And I'll say these 2 things. Here's all I want to really say, and then I'll let you talk for a minute. Sorry, just went for a run, so I have that post-run phlegm.
No.
First things first.
Local mic, guys. Local mic.
First things first, a lot of the stress that we've experienced over the past few days, regardless of which side of the fence you sit on, is because we've gotten back into this culture, not back, we've established this culture of instant gratification. There's no law that says all of the results need to be in on Tuesday night. In fact, that's not the case. Certification doesn't happen until December. We've just
Right.
established this principle that all the networks are going to call president by the end of the night. And so, because votes come in at different times and different states have different different methods to count the votes, we find ourselves with the illusion that a certain candidate is up and the other person is catching up. That's not really what it is. It's like a football game, right? Where, well, I'll tell you what, I know the final score, but I'm just going to tell you who scores touchdowns in asynchronous order.
Right.
So you
No,
get this false drama.
Right. No, absolutely. And it is indeed false drama. And it, of course, reminds me of the 2000 election, which is entirely appropriate because actually this episode we're about to talk about aired on November 26th. So a couple of weeks from now in 20 years, and they still had not called the election at that point. So I believe. So certainly it is you're right in terms of instant gratification. Like we're all expecting that, but it's a very, it was a little frustrating, honestly, because I spent the 72 hours building spreadsheets, counting all the vote margins, and it was very clear what was going to happen. And sort of numerically, it just, this is what's happening. And it took them forever to make the call, but I guess it is better that they make it carefully and correctly than quickly for my own satisfaction. But what I will say is Biden is not the perfect candidate. He's not the perfect man. He's not who I voted for in the primaries. Was obviously who I voted for in the election. But I'm really relieved and thrilled. And I'm relieved for myself, selfishly, of course, but really I'm more relieved for all of our friends and family of color, people in the LGBTQ plus community, the kids in cages. There are a lot of people who had a lot of really dire stakes in this, who hopefully will at least get a moment to breathe. And I'm very happy for them, very happy for us as a country. And the last thing I'll say about it is how much I enjoyed, Jillian and I, we walked through Astoria Park after they called it. And obviously we saw the entire planet jumping out and dancing in the streets, which of course, I was thinking about God, what must be going through Trump's head, where it's not just one city or two cities, but the entire planet is celebrating. They rung the bells in Paris when, if I lost my job, that's pretty crazy. Anyway, but in Astoria Park, it was a beautiful day and there were thousands of people there. And it wasn't a protest. It wasn't a celebration about this. Nobody was holding signs or whatever. Everyone was going about their day, sitting in the sun and walking their dogs. But every 3 or 4 minutes, there came out this spontaneous cheer and clapping that everybody would join in, prompted by nothing. And it was really fascinating to see, I got small. But we just walking down the street, and then we would clap and cheer for a while. And it was entirely our little town just became really happy. And I apparently became very small. If you're watching this on YouTube,
It brings me such joy to see how tiny you became.
I have become very small. I'm very happy about the election, in case anyone's wondering.
And the second I resize you, you're gonna get very large. But I want to do it anyway, just because
That's okay.
you're a friend of mine.
It's okay. Okay, Mike. Well, all right. I'm back at the right size.
I wanna jump in and real quick.
Yeah.
I did get a little homesick for New York when I saw all the street celebration. For me, it's twofold. First, I want to, to not play devil's advocate, but I'm going to tell you one thing. I do want to put our side on blast for a minute. Even though we, prepared ourselves for this, what do they call it? The blue shift. We
Right.
heard about it. We prepared for it. I was sort of disgusted with a lot of my friends and colleagues and people on my side of the political fence who instead of following any of the things we'd prepared for, sort of just got wasted on Tuesday and bitched and moaned. right? It was
And
instant.
panicked.
Yeah, people were panicking, getting drunk, and just being oh, we blew it again. I'm whoa, everybody needs to relax, which is why I just turned it off on Tuesday and was I'm just gonna settle in for the long haul.
That's true. I texted you guys how are you holding up? We're watching Mandalorian.
Yeah, I just was I can't right now.
Yeah, well, I was comforted by just trying to give myself the illusion I could control it by running a lot of numbers myself.
And here's what I'll say as a kind of and I think you'll agree, so I'll close down. I'm under no illusion, nor do I think you are, or anyone is, that this magically solves any problems. Or
goodness, no.
magically does away with the conflict that we have, and how clearly the popular vote shows us how divided our nation is. However, it also shows how many people got out and had an opinion, which is what you and I had been championing from the beginning. And already in the few days since the call, two things have happened that I think are good. You might disagree. Not you, Keith, but you out there might disagree. But I think show me that this was a good thing, a net win for everyone. One, I feel the volume has already come down. Yes, there are the sort of conspiracy type people who are still calling President-elect Biden a pedophile.
Rudy is still shouting from the Four Seasons lumber yard next to
Four
the
Seasons
porn store.
landscaping. Yep.
Landscaping next to the porn store and the crematorium.
But the mainstream media, all the networks, including Fox, and kind of the general consensus have already started to shift and say, hey, you know what? That stuff is inflammatory and stupid. And before a few days ago, that stuff was given equal weight to the general tenor and conversation. And already just the fact that we've sort of, I don't want to say denounced, but we voted against Trumpism, the balance has kind of restored. And for me, I'm cool with that.
No, I think it's good. And, when I make the joke about just pressing snooze on the end of democracy, these institutional problems are still there. Trumpism is not gone just because Trump is gone. But you're right. I think that the media learned a great deal from 2016. 2016, they handled so badly. And as the 4 years went by, they really started handling the way this administration deals with information in a much more responsible way. And they were, and the part of what Trump did is he always telegraphed exactly the stupid things he was going to do. So everybody knew already that he was going to say it was a fraud and it was a fake and all the votes were fake and this blah, 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 blah. So everyone was they knew it was coming, and everyone's oh, all right, great. If that's a thing, show me the evidence, but we're not going to believe you until there's evidence. And you just screaming in the industrial areas of Philadelphia is not going to make us take this seriously. And, and because taking it seriously without evidence is a real threat to our democracy. It's a threat to our institution. There's the threat of violence. It is a really dangerous thing to be playing with. So I'm really, I'm happy for the most part with how our media has handled it. All right,
I mean, at the end of the day, if my final hope, I address our new friend Mo from an email a few weeks ago. You might recall. Maybe now, Mo, these sort of policy ideas that we disagree on, we can have that conversation. We can have that argument rationally, and maybe come to some sort of solutions to the problems. That's sort of, I think we can agree that's something we're hoping for. Yeah. And maybe we have the airwaves to be done that. Let's not forget Joe Biden, one of the things he's, politically, I won't say famous, but politically recognized for is he's reached across the aisle many, many times. And, he's got a tough balancing act with sort of the left wing of our party, the progressive wing, and the sort of staunch obstructionalist sort of right. Maybe he can thread the needle. Let's see.
Yeah, well, I will be really thrilled to get back to debating tax policy and not debating whether Democrats are lizard people who drink the blood of babies. What do you say?
Let's not forget. But there is plenty we can do, but we don't live there, so we can't actually vote. But all eyes go to Georgia, right? Because that is it's not over
seriously.
Yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Should we
we
talk
talked about that for
the
too
practice?
long? Yeah. No, let's not talk about the practice yet. Let's talk about ourselves some more.
You've been listening too.
No, it is time to listen to somebody other than us and hear the filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. We have heard from our most Russian friend, Dmitry Fedorov, who wrote on our YouTube, after all, Harlan Bassett wins paying $5.6 million in compensatory damages. And I think there might have been a bit of a language barrier there because I don't quite know what he's talking about. He might be referring to an episode in the future. But obviously, last episode, Brothers Keepers, we got a great visit from Harlan Bassett. And I could imagine he might be asking for compensatory damages to being thrown in jail for doing his job.
We might actually be giving $5.6 million in compensatory damages for the unfair use of the Disney properties Timon and Pumbaa, as you will see on our social media this week.
Well, look, I measurably changed the art so as to make it a commentary. So I believe in parody laws. Because like the pictures of Timon and Pumbaa are from separate things, as are the pictures of Ernie and Tom, and the background is yet another separate image. So I measurably changed it. I don't think it's clear that Disney is endorsing our Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady. Anyway, also Maxwell's Demon 9 wrote
that is an intense handle. P.S.
Maxwell's Demon 9. I think it's great.
Very specific. I'd love to know. Please write in. Let us know. I want to know the origin of that.
Is it haunted coffee?
I don't know. It's better than Mikey I 99 that I just picked in high school because I graduated in 1999, and now I'm like, oh, that was creative.
Well,
we all know Parviarto.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but the other thing about 99 now is a lot of people will tag their birth year at the end of their handle. And so you could be like, yeah, I was born in 99. Yeah, sure.
Totally. I read that. Totally. It's not like,
You're a graduate high school. Anyway,
I found my high school tassel and the colors are so faded. It's very depressing.
Well, colors are faded on all of us. Anyway, Maxwell's Demon 9 says, hey, nice spare tire wrap up, Mike. Echoing my own thoughts about the 3 storylines. I also find this a very strong episode. It is disappointing to learn that Kittleson is a complete piece of shit, although I will say we get a hint of her authoritarian streak in Season 3, Closet Justice, where we learn she hates the 4th Amendment. To quote Kittleson herself, anyone who hates our basic constitutional rights can't be all good, or even very good at all. In conclusion, screw Kittleson.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree after that. After what she revealed.
Why don't you take that Emmy, turn it sideways, and shove it straight up your candy ass, Kittleson?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Maxwell's Demon 9. It is now time to hop back into the time machine.
Oh shit, we really went right there, y'all.
That's it. We are going back to November 26th, the year 2000. And it brings up everybody's question, Mike, what were you doing
this day in the basement?
That's not what we do next.
I promise.
What we
next
do
week,
next is basement.
Next week, I'll be more ready.
This is episode 92.
My mom's coming over to stay with us for my birthday weekend, so that promise is sure to be busted as I want to pull my hair out.
And actually, you know what that reminds me to do as we're finishing up filings and subpoenas, guys. Next week we're celebrating Mike's 40th birthday, and I've got some fun stuff planned. But if you would like to participate, reach out, wish Mike a happy birthday. Don't make him all lonely so that I'm the only one wishing him a happy birthday. Send it to our Instagram at Out of Practice Podcast, our Facebook at Out of Practice Podcast, outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. Come on, guys, let's do this in style.
Photoshop me onto a ripped body so that I feel better about myself. Anything you want to do, really.
Yeah, it's sort of like Trump does. You can Photoshop yourself onto Rambo. Be perfect. Riding a horse shirtless with Putin.
November 26th, the year 2000. It was around Thanksgiving time. I think
Sure
that's
was.
fair to say. And I recall, I think I mentioned it last year, maybe not. We used to go to, there was a few of us, my friend Wesley and I, we had stayed back. We were back from the college experience, and we would go to my friend Alex's house where his parents were sort of empty nesters, and we would spend Thanksgiving with them. And it was really kind of awesome. We did that this year, and they were such good people to us and provided a little therapy for me at the time because, as I think I've mentioned, my parents didn't really understand what the hell I was doing with myself. And the Kahlers sort of, I guess maybe I shouldn't be using their names, but it's all right. It's in positive light.
You're saying good things.
Yeah. They really were there for me in a sort of both friendship way and a parental way. And I've gone on to, I've come to really respect it even more than I did at the time. I don't think I recognized how important it was for me until later in life. The sad news, the sort of postmortem of it, is that they've moved on in their lives. They've moved away. I can't tell from the social media where they are or if they're, what their situations are. And so it's hard to reach out. And I haven't really kept in touch with my friend Alex either. So we sort of lost them to antiquity thus far. So I guess I'm just shouting a thank you out to the universe to them, and hopefully our paths spin across at another time.
Well, if you're still on social media, you can reach out.
They're not. That's kind of that's what I'm saying.
They're not.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Nor is Alex, so.
It's sad when that happens. But it is a part of life. People, we come in and out of each other's lives as time goes, and if we're serving a purpose for, if we're providing something good for each other in the time that we're there, that's a good thing.
And I also don't begrudge anyone who decides to not be on social media. In fact, I probably think it's better for people to not be. So,
Oh yeah,
is
definitely.
what it is, as I say.
Yeah, but how else am I going to feed my narcissism?
Well, we've got this here podcast that could be 45 minutes.
That's true. That's true. Like there's 42 minutes of the practice episode padded with an hour and a half of narcissism.
Yep.
It's perfect.
And like anxiety and fear, loneliness,
Loneliness. Yes, a lot. That's true. Yeah, there's a fine line between loneliness and narcissism that keeps us doing this.
Yeah.
That's great.
We're really textbook case. Someone somewhere is writing a hell of a book on us.
Yeah, Phoenix probably is. He's probably going to, go to his next psychology meeting and do an abstract on us.
He's on TED Talks. We don't even know it about us. It's a TED Talk on us.
Probably. All right. Well, I was spending Thanksgiving of 2000 back in my home state of Vermont with my folks. There is me looking all chunky,
Woo, girl.
just like I do today. That's the weird thing. I sort of fluctuate in weight, but I kind of just look the same, except I've got a lot more gray in the beard these days.
You look so much like Harry Potter, number one, that I didn't
It's
even
the
recognize
round
until right
glasses.
now. Yeah. And you look a lot like your grandfather. I assume
I
that's
do.
your grandfather.
That
Yeah.
is my grandfather. Yeah. We actually kind of have the same expression there. Yeah.
And
was a
someone
beautiful-
who photographs you loves this sort of angled profile shot of you.
That's true. Yeah, it's my mother, and of course you can tell from the resolution that was like an early digital camera. I think that's a still from the digital video that we had. We're so proud. Got 320 by 240, guys.
Looking good.
But anyway, it was a beautiful snowy Thanksgiving. We did a lot of sledding, did some time outside, and I will say that my grandfather there is still with us, but he's had some health issues of late, so we wish him well. That is the grandfather that I've talked about, who was a gay rights activist, still is a gay rights activist for the last 40 years, if you believe it. So we certainly wish Grandpa well. All right,
is he a listener of the pod, Keith?
He is profoundly not. But he was pretty excited about the election, I'll tell you that much.
That's awesome.
He was like, I'm not going until he's gone.
My favorite part of the election was after it was all said and done, and my mom asked me to teach her what the Electoral College was. She didn't understand the numbers, and so that was kind of fun. And then at the end of all of it, they were like talking about Trump, and she goes, "Why are they still talking about this asshole?" And I thought that was just wonderful. That was just wonderful. So also a shout out to Steve Kornacki. I mean, that guy, whether you're in MSNBC or not, he just really broke it down and was trying to make people understand the math. He wasn't sensationalizing it. He
also didn't leave the air for like 100 hours straight.
I know, the poor guy. You could see it. Everybody, all of the networks, all of the anchors, just becoming decrepit, sleep-deprived zombies was
I was really impressed at how well they held up. Really, I mean, that was crazy.
It was WrestleMania for them, man. This was WrestleMania, the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, and I understand from, Jillian was asking me, like, how could he do that? And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is like the Super Bowl. This is like the best. Like, I'd be so excited to like break some sort of a record for, most consecutive hours on air. That'd be awesome. And, Lord knows what he's eating behind that desk.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, it is time to...
It's time for the Out of Practice Podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago. Now back to Keith and Mike.
Okay, as we mentioned, we're talking about November 26th, the year 2000. The number one hit continued to be Independent Woman by Destiny's Child. The cover of the Burlington Free Press talked about the campaigns to prepare for certification as the 2000 election was finally coming to an end. So if you think we took a long time to figure out who was going to win the presidency, 2000, don't forget it. The top movie continued to be How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Jim Carrey tearing it up in the film arena as he does now on SNL.
And now he's playing, what a weird sort of
it's all coming
symmetry.
Together.
Yeah.
All right, thank
That's
you.
That's a good adaptation, by the way.
It's just one dude.
No.
You mean...
Because that isn't a good adaptation. The movie was a good adaptation.
I've never actually seen it. I was not one of the millions of people who plunked down, $7 at that point to see a movie?
I'd have to Google 2000? It. I don't know. That sounds so cheap, but also still very expensive.
Possibly, I mean, Vermont still might be $7.
Do you not watch The Mandalorian, Keith? Sorry, total non sequitur. Do you not?
No, I've just started. I've seen like the first 3 or 4 episodes.
Good. And I avoided it because I was talking about how good it is, and I'm a contrarian. But
you are.
It's really good.
No, I was. It looks so expensive, but
it's so good.
But it's actually not as much as you might think because of how they film it. I don't. So we're talking about off a tangent. All the worlds that they build there that you think is green screen or blue screen is not. It's actually, they have a circular LED net that is so detailed, it fools 4K cameras. And so they're able to interact with that world in real time because they've already mapped it out. And it's synced up with the camera, so they can move the camera or whatever, and the background will move realistically with the camera, so they can actually do it all in frame.
I can't even get you sized right through Skype. I mean,
well,
we're in trouble.
And that LED net is such a cool technology.
So do the actors see the
actors
environment they're in?
Wow. Yeah, they sure do. Yeah, and it's similar to I might have mentioned this the King Kong on Broadway a couple years ago that my brother-in-law was in, the guy who introduces This Day in the World. They had
back around.
They had that technology as the background on the set, so they had a little bit of a set in front of it, but they had this full backdrop of this LED net, which was able to move and project all these things in a way that's so much better than either front or rear projection because it's an actual LED net. Very cool.
Cool.
Anyway, it's time.
It's time.
Thanks, Eric.
It's time for Sportsball.
The New York Football Giants decimated the lowly Arizona Cardinals 31-7 in a half-empty Sun Devil Stadium. Ron Dane, Tiki Barber, and Amani Toomer contributed rushing touchdowns, and Dave Brown was terrible for Arizona, as always. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Football Eagles reached a record of 9-4 with a 23-20 victory over the Washington Races, names overcoming 2 touchdown passes by Jeff George. McNabb rushed for 125 yards and a touchdown for the Eagles.
Should be noted this week, Keith, the New York Giants won a football game, and Tom Brady had his ass handed to him, and I enjoyed both those things.
I'm sad that the Giants won because I want that number 1 pick because we need a quarterback who doesn't fumble or throw an interception on 62% of the plays that he does. And I did the math. I could fumble and get an interception on 100% of the plays. And the Giants need somebody that's more than a 38% better than I could do.
I just like that they won because it kept the Eagles firmly atop the NFC East.
They can stay there. I just want the pick. I just want the number 1 pick. Okay. It is now time for
Weather.
I mean, we can listen to it. I don't got
Can you
Are you ever going to do the weather again? See, I fought so hard to kill this dead. And you fought so hard to keep it alive.
I don't know that I fought. I had an advocate fight for me. But what
who you have abandoned?
No, what I have an idea to resurrect it, and I also am going to bring back true crime, back in time true crime. So both those things are happening at some point. At some point.
I'm a human being. God damn
I was moving, man.
My life has value, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
It's time to talk about the damn episode.
Okay. It
Yes.
is time to talk about the episode. This episode is The Practice, Season 5, Episode 8, Mr. Hinks Goes to Town. It was written by David E. Kelly and directed by Jeannot Soir, the director who's directed many
him.
more episodes, and of course, Jaws 2. It leaves us with only one thing to do.
You said this was like a famous episode, right?
Yeah.
What is that supposed to mean? What's your problem? Is this what happens to women when you insert your penis?
What?
What does Mike think's gonna happen?
You know, what if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
I have absolutely no idea. But one thing I'm going to guess right off the bat is that we have a party for Eleanor this week. Somebody throws Eleanor a party. In fact,
Boy, talk about the season of big swings.
she deserves it. Not only that, we meet the sperm donor this week, Mr. Hinks. Because he finds out that there has been a settlement that
he went to town on something.
Yeah, that the firm has won, and he wants a piece of that sweet, sweet Eleanor cheese. And I mean money when I say cheese, because I don't want this to get nasty. All right.
Too late.
Man. So, yeah, this is all about Eleanor's pregnancy. Ooh, Jen is bringing in coffee. Thanks, Jen. Jen, come say hi on camera. Come on. Okay, that's a hard no. She gave me a this. She ducked down just to ensure that even if she broached to camera frame, she would be underneath the horizon.
But here's the amazing part. The door to the room is directly behind you, and I didn't see it have it. Did she crawl on the floor like in
That's
she's
a closet.
in the military?
It's just a closet.
Okay.
That's a closet. The door's over there.
Because I can tell you only a few things with a great deal of certainty.
She military crawled into this room holding a coffee to ensure she would not be on camera.
No, and that is absolutely true. I can tell you one thing: Jillian will not be coming through that door. She did not want to be on camera or off camera or anything to do with us. Oh my God.
Man, that made me laugh.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the not drop in, CEO Jen.
Oh, Keith, you know what I realized? For no reason, it doesn't matter, but for those shows I do, seestheshow.com, I film at 24 frames per second for a more cinematic flair, and I forgot to change that for our recording today, so we're going to be in 24 frames.
Oh, nice.
Very
I like it.
Scorsese of us.
I like it. Very classy. Okay. Well, here we go. Mr. Hinks comes to town. Any guesses on the on our Easter egg this week?
So it looks like it'd be a signet of some sort. It's not quite a target. It could be some sort of like a No.
Okay. Well, we will
I tell you what it looks like to me. Let me tell you what it looks like to me.
Okay.
Do you remember American Gladiators?
Mm-hmm.
I think I mentioned it on TV on More TV a few weeks ago. Anyway, remember that game where they'd have to roll in those like hamster balls and like get into the little pod for the points?
Yeah,
that looks like the pod.
Okay. Yeah, it sort of does.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to show that on screen right here. Hopefully, now I've given myself something to do in post. God damn it!
You gave yourself homework.
But then we'll see. We should discuss. Some weeks we don't discuss the Easter egg, and we should.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will revisit it later. Meanwhile, maybe you should get one of those hamster balls for you and Jen. Maybe she'll be on camera then if you do some American Gladiator.
What? Why would she?
But maybe she'd appear on if you built her one of those hamster balls to like roll around.
I'm going to bring my wife in a cage. Yeah, that's going to do well. It's going to do well for us. Here's the QR code, people.
Oh, for Christ's sakes! All right.
If you want to listen to us talk about the episode for this scintillating insight we provide, and the comedy, Keith. I don't know, really that joke. That if you loved that hard hitting comedy of Keith's American Gladiator, put your wife in a cage. You're going to love what we can come up with during this episode of The Practice.
Exploding democracy, Eleanor's cheese, and wives in cages. That's what you come.
You've really stumbled upon a gem of an episode.
Crushing it. Mr. Hinks has come to town.
Yeah, he went to town all right. On my feelings, on my emotions, on just about everything that I hold true to myself.
Yeah. Well, let's give you an opportunity to tell us why in
Mike has 30 seconds to remember what just happened on the show.
Yo, Mr. Hinks went to fucking town. Lindsay's friend, who's a psychotherapist, tells her that her client's innocent and she thinks she figured it out through hypnosis. But turns out the only thing going back and forth was this guy's premeditation. He planned 7 steps ahead. The Queen's gambited the chess out of this shit. He did it, told her he didn't do it, played like he did do it through a confession. And at the end of the day, he gets out of prison and says he might kill again. And Lindsay's like, damn.
Woo, we should have said spoiler alert before we did that one.
Well, I mean, isn't that what Here's What Happened on the Show isn't it just
yeah, that's true. It is in itself a spoiler alert. Woo.
Wow.
All right.
I mean, hold on, let's just talk about it for a minute.
Yeah.
The forethought that went into writing that is absolutely extraordinary because you start with the end game, right? The end game is
right,
and the hoops to jump through is the whole time you have to convince us early that we figured it out, right?
Right.
That we've solved the riddle, and that and if you can really thread the needle, we start to root for him getting found not guilty.
Right, and that is the chess that David E. Kelly's playing there.
Now you can write that perfectly, as it pretty close to is, but yet if any of the performances wink and nod or give up the game too soon, or they're too skeptical, even from Jimmy's sort of side eye in the very beginning,
right?
You can ruin it. And there were so many things that could have ruined it. I guess this is why it's such a well-renowned episode.
Oh yeah, I mean, and we'll get into it once we get into the oopsies. But there are so many performances here that have to be calibrated absolutely pitch perfectly. And of course, we're going to talk about Michael Emerson. Don't worry. But to be able to walk the audience, it's the direction as well, and the editing and the writing, but to be able to walk us through that journey, because David had to get us through like 6 different points in the journey. He had to take us from, oh my God, this guy totally did it, he's horrible, he's a monster, get us to, oh my God, he didn't do it, I hope he gets off, and then turn it all around. And as a writer, that's a challenge. Ooh, I'm big again.
You got big again.
I'm
well,
giant this
you'll
time.
shrink once we play the OOPSY intro, which I've determined from last episode, Keith, you're not going to hear, but you should be normal sized at the conclusion of it.
I will trust you.
Yes, keep talking big, because that's kind of funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Out of Practice podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present
Oopsie.
The Oopsies! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady. Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike.
What the hell are the oopsies?
Well, they are a fake award show that we give out at the end of every episode, starting with
Most Valuable.
Oh, yeah. Well.
yeah.
Well. Oh man, this is like, it's like Inception. Is the top spinning? I don't even. Well, Lindsay, valuable to what? Because Lindsay sure fucking ate some shit here.
We get into results versus effort versus consequences.
I mean, and then what was the DA's name?
It was
The character
Roland
name?
Hill. ADA Roland Hill.
ADA Roland Hill lost his case, but damn, he presented a great case. Oh man. Well, I don't know. We have this actually, Keith, is an episode that calls into question everything Phoenix has brought to our attention, and you and I for never solidifying the actual rules. God damn it.
I'm giant again.
It's Skype, man. I'm telling you, it's Skype. Keith Cam.
I'll be giant. Oh, all right. I'm normal again.
So, I mean, if we're looking at the just general pop and like women in general, I feel like everybody's lost here.
Well, yeah, it's. I think we have
Can
to.
we award his previous 2 lawyers who
got fired though?
Yeah.
I mean, all right. I have an idea.
Okay.
You want me to start?
I'm a little stumped. Yeah.
All right, I'll start. I think you could make really excellent arguments for 3 different people in this situation.
Okay.
1, Lindsay. Obviously, she secured an acquittal. Her job was to secure an acquittal. She did. She did some excellent lawyering, catching him in the lie. She gave a good close. She did objectively a really good job with a really difficult, crazy case. Also, you could argue it for ADA Roland Hill, who gave such a good closing that he may not have convinced the jury, but he convinced opposing counsel of the guilt of her own client.
Ladies
Oh,
and
boy.
gentlemen, the Out of
what's
Practice
happening
podcast,
over there?
Oh,
in unofficial,
boy.
unsolicited,
Ah.
unfactual association with David E. Kelly
What's
Productions.
happening?
Oh boy. That,
Oh.
we were close.
Oh.
All right. Harold Hill.
So, Harold Hill, yes, 76 trombones. No, he was able to convince opposing counsel of the that their client was guilty, and actually elicit a real confession from the client in that situation. But I am going to go in a third direction, and I'm going to give it to Mr. Hinks. Because who was the puppet master of this whole thing? Who controlled both sides of the equation? Who actually actually secured his acquittal? Who had a plan? Who played everybody? He did the performance. He doled out all the information correctly. He remembered which things to forget intentionally, what things to get wrong, how to manipulate the entire system. I have to give it to Hinks.
Okay. However, for the same reason that we can't, like, by our rules, we would never have given Holland Taylor the Emmy because she wasn't a full cast member at the time. Hinks is not a lawyer, so awarding him most.
But we have precedent. We have given it to Lucy before. We have given it to non-lawyers before. Respect precedent.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, if we're gonna, I mean, it's a slippery slope, but it's our podcast, goddammit. Yes. I mean, he was the puppet master. He was in a, you know what? At the end of the season, oh, Jen's back. At the end of the season, she's barrel rolling.
Hey, Jen, you want to hop into a cage and roll around in the background?
Yeah, I mean, it's a slippery slope, but like I said, at the season 5 Oopsie Spectacular, we got to put Joey Herrick and Mr. Hinks head to head because we've got some chess playing to be done.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, for the final Oopsies, series finale Oopsies, we'll have to have a category for criminal mastermind.
Yeah. All right. You know what, Mr. Hinks, I'm in.
Hinks, I did it. Most valuable lawyer is me. I
now,
got
Keith,
the serial killer in MVL.
Yeah, that was your plan all along, Keith. You hinksed me
from the beginning. That was my plan.
Oh well, I think at least this next one's gonna be a little easier.
Yeah, this one should not be that difficult. Although, honestly,
there's a great argument. Yes.
Already famous because you've been on TV, getting a paycheck. Or the first entry on your IMDb. Way to go. But you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
Just found guitar picks.
We got picks. Nice.
Well, yeah, Emerson, I think, is going to win the Oopsie. But Keith, why don't you go for the honorable mention shout-outs, of which there are a plethora.
Yeah, but before we gush about Michael Emerson for a long time, obviously Dennis Arndt did a spectacular job.
God damn, yeah.
As the DA, that closing was extraordinary. He has such an ability to just radiate authority. And that was such a like his closing, the 5 pages of dialogue he had to do all by itself. You know, it gets into what makes this show so good is that they would dare. I should go back and check. Just how long was that? 3-4 minutes of consecutive monologuing by one person on network television.
And also, if I'm not mistaken, it was a one shot. I mean, I don't know that we edited in different angles that would institute a cut. It felt like a one shot to me.
Well, whether it was or whether it wasn't, it felt like it. And again, that also speaks to the work that Dennis did, and not the least of which he has to explain. And this is also David's work, but to explain this incredibly convoluted setup that Hinks has done, that we all understand it and we're following it. He holds our attention and then walks us through this thing as a lawyer's work. It was extraordinary work. And as an actor's work, it was extraordinary work. So in any other episode, you'd get an Oopsie. Unfortunately, you're going up against one of the greatest performances we've ever seen on this show.
It's up there. I think it's up there.
From Michael Emerson. And
because of I've talked about it during the episode. If you don't listen to the middle segment, you're missing the best part of the Oreo. But because of the tricky plot device that was asked of Emerson,
right?
Michael
Emerson, yeah,
because he couldn't give away the game. He had to play the play within the play.
Right. And he had to not give away the game on multiple levels. He had to not give away the game to the audience, but also not give away the game within the world of the show. So he had to play it ambiguous on several different layers, while the character's objective is to be unambiguous, to be very clear about what's happening. Like he's desperately trying to get us to believe he did it so that we can believe he didn't do it. And
the work as an actor, that you have to go back to that, like Keith said, that fundamental, what am I trying to achieve here? Then how many layers of artifice does the character have to pile on top of that in order to get the set achievement? And then on top of that, I have to juxtapose that with what am I as the narrative of the show trying to achieve? And how can I marry those things?
Right.
And that is not always an easy thing. On top of that, you have to take the tools you have as an actor, which is just sort of your being, right? And he has those sort of, like I said during the episode, those insane eyes. So you have to think, where is that aiding me? Where is that playing against me? And how do I then, I want to say mollify. I'm not sure if that's the word I'm looking for. How do I merge those two things?
Yeah.
And he did it because I jumped through about every hoop, and I as you saw, I went on the roller coaster ride, and I bought it, and it's a stunning achievement.
And the other thing is, I think that's really hard to act, is a character making a mistake, right? And so when Lindsay is cross-examining him, he has to act the character acting as though he's made a mistake. He has to act the character pretending that he doesn't know what to say, that he's cornered, and like just the layers of the onion of the artifice that he has to accomplish in there, and that he just does. He just lands every element of that.
We should shout out the therapist again.
Oh, Rebecca Kreskoff.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it more in Tires, because all of this also hinges on us believing that she is right. Even though she hedges her bets here and there, especially at the end, which felt a little, maybe if I was going to find a nit to pick, they shoehorned in her doubt a little bit late there. You know,
but from her perspective, right? If her objective, the character's objective, is to get this guy off, is to convince other people to fight for him, she's also doing a performance hiding her doubt so that Lindsay would take this case.
Yeah, I mean that we can split that. We can split that.
Because if she
later.
goes into Lindsay's office and says like, he might not be guilty, I don't know. That's not going to get her. She wants a zealous defense for her client, even if she is unsure. And the only way to do that is to express that you're sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the tale of this story that I find really interesting, and maybe we visit later, I don't know, is how long he had to play her on as a therapist. Like, what was that chess game to get finally convince her?
She said that they worked for 30 hours.
Oh, right.
So probably 30 sessions he had to keep this up.
And this, he is sort of he is a better Moriarty, because, Joey Herrick is also asked to be a comedic character in many ways.
Right.
And whereas this is not that. So we've yet to have the sort of pure down the middle evil mastermind.
Right. He's the not comedic version of Joey, but also Joey's arrogance is always his Achilles heel. Whereas this guy's sort of malevolence has not shown an Achilles heel yet. He just crushed it. So
yeah, and in fact, you know what? Thinking back also to just this performance is that one scene on the VHS where he's talking about his hatred towards women. That's the one time where you're like, fuck, that doesn't seem fake. Like, that seems pretty straight and real. And then now looking back with all the knowledge of how it turns out, it was. And so even that slight distinction is like, that is an actor making that so.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, he, as the actor, chose to let the character accidentally reveal some truth while telling the truth as a way to accomplish a lie.
Yeah.
I mean, good Lord.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
All right.
so
Well, there you go.
crazy. All right. Well,
Play those snaps.
Michael Emerson, congratulations on your best guest actor. Next up.
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show.
Well, I mean, yeah, we just said it. I mean, shout outs to all those people. I wish we could give it to Emerson here again. It was that good.
Best guest and best actor. Yes.
But I think both Michael Badalucco and Kelly Williams really played excellent parts in this show. And even at the beginning when we lament that Rebecca's not getting her due, or Eugene for that matter, I think this pairing of actors was excellent. Bobby, I think, would have demanded too much. His presence is just too much for this. I think it would have drawn the focus from where it needed to be.
Yeah.
Kelly was so specific. It was like everything she did with Lindsay this week was like a scalpel. The precision carving out the performance was so precise, and she had to carry that doubt all the way through, right? Because she was trying to catch him while defending him, and then at the end make that realization. And still, I thought, we know, as does Kelly Williams clearly, that she doesn't want to overplay her hand as like this person who's been victimized, but we need to know it's there. And especially in that scene where he's quote unquote confessing the fraud, or she's uncovering it.
Right.
The deadly precision there. That's a great scene also.
Yeah.
And I don't want to overlook Badalucca because he was doing the same with less dialogue. Yep. But I think Kelly Williams, for me, was just the precision was to be rewarded.
I think that's exactly the right word for her performance and for the episode as a whole.
Yeah.
That the precision necessary to pull all of this off, the scalpel-like acting and writing and editing and directing that had to happen for this is really quite something. And I was going to save it for Tires, but I think you brought up the scene where we figure it out, and there's if you just listen to it, you're doing yourself a disservice. You need to get onto Hulu and watch this, because there's like 10 seconds of dead air, which is just the three of them doing nonverbal acting as we watch on Lindsay's face her figure it out. And we watch Emerson's just little smirk, just the tiniest little thing, which reveals. So she figures it out. We see it register on her face. Now, a bad show would go like, oh my God, and say something that would be a musical sting, but it was just the tiniest twitch of the eye, which she got it. Then he, in the tennis game of nonverbal acting, then he sees her twitch, gives her a twitch to confirm, yes, you are right. And then we see Michael make the same realization. That little symphony of nonverbal acting, subtle nonverbal acting that told so much of the story. And again, that's also the direction.
Yeah, we talk about it often, the giving them that air to let them, when you know you've got the caliber of actors that David and directors know, they let them play. And I think that's to the show's credit, clearly.
And to dare to let it be subtle. To let that realization be just like just all internal. So je ne sais. Anyway, yes, obviously, I think it's Kelly Williams as well. Get your best actor. Okay, now for something much more serious.
The Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
Timon Tom Brady, right here. No affiliation to the Walt Disney Company or Corporation. I want to be quick with this because we have a lot to say in Tires, I'm sure. But so I want to just see Keith Photoshop Tom Brady eating the fingernails of dead people. Tom Brady. I won't insinuate that he murdered them. Just
he just got a little peckish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know what? I
Well,
won't even say dead people. Let me just say Tom Brady feasting on fingernails. Tom Brady.
feasting on fingernails, Tom Brady. Okay, congratulations, feasting on fingernails, Tom Brady. Get that iron. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
So clearly the best episode of the season. Let's see where it falls in the overall rankings. I'm really actually interested to hear you talk, Keith, because this is one of those episodes that I think my question would be is, does it hold up to scrutiny, right? Once you know the end game and you go back and rewatch it, are there tells? Are there holes? Or does the House of Cards still play out well? I flippantly used Inception as a comparison earlier, and I actually think it's pretty good analogy.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many what's another one? What's that guy?
I See Dead People.
Yep, The Sixth Sense, and also what's the one? Oh, I love the movie where he's got the tattoos of the case.
Memento.
You know, the precision necessary to create to pull the gag off at the end, and also not make it just about the reveal, right? You know, The Prestige, you know, the reveal is great, but it's about the story leading up to it. That's also compelling. And so
it's all Christopher Nolan.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. So it all worked for me, man. And from the performances to the direction to the teleplay, I really, like I said, my one nit, if I was trying to find one right now, is that I felt like once from the very beginning, like Lindsay's passageway into the case at the top, when you go in clean, doesn't quite feel as compelling as I'd like it to be. Mm-hmm. She kind of has to just take her friend's word for it again. And as Bobby says, like, this might not be something we want to bite off. Like, maybe we don't want this attention. Maybe we don't want this notoriety. It's not. So maybe that, though, like I said, that's part of the ruse too, right? Because when we find out the reveal, she got played too, the friend. So it makes sense that they had to have a personal kind of bite. That all said, because I want to hear your take, on poking holes. It's as close to perfect as I think we've seen, and so I have to give it. I can't say it's perfect because I've not seen the entirety of the practice, so I can't give out the perfect 10. But it's as close as we've gotten. I'm going to give it a 9.85.
9.85. Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, I was excited to see this one coming up, like seasons in advance. And I was wondering too, because I saw it the night of. I think I probably saw it again at some point in the intervening 20 years. But I was like, is it going to hold up? Is it going to, because I know the twist, is it still going to be compelling? Well, I've now watched it twice more after that. I watched it yesterday and then again today. And at least for me, it really does. It really does hold up. And I find it compelling every time, even though I know the outcome. Because now I'm watching it from the standpoint of like watching him execute the strategy, and knowing the strategy and watching him execute it. It almost becomes like watching a heist movie. It's like watching Ocean's 11, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to watch the whole plan work forward. And it's very satisfying the second time around, just like that, because it does hold up. It does all make sense. If I had a nit to pick, I wouldn't necessarily have the same one that you would. I would just like to have seen a little bit more acknowledgement of the journey this must have been for Lindsay from the standpoint of having already been attacked by a serial killer, and just having a little bit more of that emotional momentum. But there really wasn't time. I mean, and it's funny in a situation where there's only an A case in this story, in this episode, and there's no B stories, no C story, no comedic subplot. It is just this story, and yet it feels jam-packed. It feels like every beat is necessary. It feels like we're racing along. It never feels like there's filler in there, which again speaks to the quality of the episode. And honestly, you gave it a 9.85. I think to leave a little room for what might be coming. And it is, for the point of reference, it is the highest rated episode on IMDb of the entire series.
Okay, that's good to know.
And I think it was probably the one I've looked forward to most. And I was not disappointed.
Is he going to do it, folks?
And I think, nits aside, if I have to go back and watch another, like, oh man, I feel down, I want to watch a practice episode, this is probably first in my queue. So, therefore, this will be the first time, maybe the only time, in the Out of Practice podcast history that I will award a full 10 tires. Woo!
So that is a 9.93.
There it is, the first 10 of the series.
9.93. I don't know that it's going to get higher than that.
I don't know. I honestly, will see where it strikes us, but whoo, that was an incredible episode of The Practice. It was probably a mediocre episode of Out of Practice, but thanks for sticking with us. If you would like to reach out and talk to us and wish Mike a happy 40th birthday, you have, 4 days left before you're an old man?
Yep.
Reach us at Out of Practice Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, or email us outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. Check out our blog, which will have a new #1 in the rankings, outofpracticepodcast.blogspot.com. The Out of Practice Podcast is brought to you by generous donations from Leanne Wrights, Cloud Lover 69, Jorge Navoa, and Jennifer Massanova. Please join them, and Mike will tell you how.
You can donate to the podcast in one or two ways: a monthly contribution or a single donation. You'll find the links to do so in our show notes. In fact, you can, the timer's going. You can also let a friend know that you think we're funny or that the show is interesting. We'd like to thank all of our future and current sponsors, or those joining the show now or that have been listening from the beginning. We thank you. Keith, do me a favor. Convince me that I shot off laser sounds when it turns out I didn't actually fire them off, but then it turns out after that I did fire them off all along.
Yes, laser sounds. And by the way, the little icon there, that's the Dharma Initiative logo, which you don't know because you don't know Lost, but I think you should watch Lost just to see Michael Emerson as Ben in that, because this character is Proto-Ben.
Okay, so I'm going to YouTube a supercut of Ben scenes in...
No, don't. Just watch the series.
Not going to happen. We'll see you next week.
Laser sounds.